What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got another NBA discussion video to be talking about with you guys. This time actually revolving around who I think the Minnesota Timberwolves should be drafting at pick 1 in the 2020 NBA draft. Obviously, for those of you who didn't know, they actually recently just won the lottery and was gifted the #1 overall pick, which I did not think they were going to be the team to get the #1 pick. I'm going to be honest here. I kind of pictured them potentially getting a chance to get into the top 4, but I didn't really going into the draft lottery thinking that the Timberwolves would be getting the #1 pick. But actually, yeah, here we are. Really just shows that, any team's a chance to potentially be getting it. And a lot is really going the Timberwolves' way. They were able to trade for Malik Beasley and D'Lo. And since Beasley's been at the Timberwolves, I believe he's averaging like 20 points per game since he's been there. So it's pretty good for, the Timberwolves at the moment. But at the #1 pick, there is a couple players who I think they should be drafting, and I will be going over all of those players in this video. But first of all, for who I think the most likely option will be, and I think this is, I believe this is definitely going to be the most likely. This makes the most amount of sense. And honestly, with pick 1, I think the Minnesota Timberwolves should be selecting Anthony Edwards out of Georgia. I think it would be a very, very good decision by them. We obviously know Anthony Edwards. He believes he is the best defender in the draft, and even though he can be extremely inconsistent throughout, defending, in college, when he is on, and he's arguably one of the best defenders in the draft. But that is only, when he's on. He's definitely going to work out the inconsistencies. But I think he would be absolutely perfect for the Minnesota Timberwolves for a couple of reasons. For example, they do currently have D'Angelo Russell at point guard, who has been shown to be not exactly the greatest defender throughout his career. And then they've also got Malik Beasley, who he's definitely not an undersized shooting guard. He's probably about average size, but he's also shown to be a pretty bad defender throughout his career. And I just cannot see a way where really both of these two players, and Karl Anthony Towns, and a couple of, they've got their power forward right now, who's not exactly the greatest defender. Josh Okogie's currently playing like a little bit of small ball, small forward. He has been doing okay at that. Their defense is absolutely terrible, and at this stage is possibly one of the worst, if not the worst, in the NBA. So I feel like if they can potentially bring, Malik Beasley to come off the bench and play that guard position. He likes to run the ball up. He likes to play a bit of that point guard as well. I definitely think him coming off the bench is the best decision for his career and for the team. I think it makes a lot of sense to have full control off the bench. And then you can have Anthony Edwards starting at that shooting guard position at 6'5". He can bring in much needed defense to add on with D'Lo. And obviously, he's a great scorer, extremely versatile. And in my opinion, he's definitely a top 3 best player in this draft, if not the best player. But the second player I'm actually going to be talking about, who I genuinely believe is most likely the best player, well, maybe not necessarily the best player, but the player who has the most potential and has shown a heap so far, and that is Lamelo Ball. So I don't really think the Minnesota Timberwolves should be drafting Lamelo Ball at all with the first pick, but what Lamelo was able to do at the NBL, playing against stars, literally so many good players in the Australian League, and playing for the Illawarra Hawks. Yes, they didn't have exactly the greatest record, but if you actually watch them throughout the season, you would know why they didn't have the greatest record. They didn't really have any players at all. Like, I believe they had Aaron Brooks, who was okay, ended up getting injured later in the season. They had a couple other players here and there that weren't exactly the greatest going around. So considering he was, playing against a couple of really good teams like Melbourne United, the Perth Wildcats, etc., the fact that, he still played exceptionally good, and he was straight away really thrown in as the #1 option on a really young team. And I think he definitely proved what he can do, and there were a lot of highlights, and I just think, again, he could be the most talented player in this draft, but I just don't really think he necessarily matches well with the Minnesota Timberwolves at all. I think they need a shooting guard, small forward, or power forward. And even though Lamelo Ball has shown he can definitely guard the shooting guard position, even just watching him in the NBL though, it's clear that he plays best when he runs the ball up the court and is the main, the main point guard on the team, rather than playing that off-ball type of guard. He did it a little bit with Aaron Brooks, and it wasn't good at all. It did not do that great, and I just think that it would make a lot of sense for him to be the main point guard on his team, and that's why I honestly believe there's a team that I think would be kind of perfect to draft Lamelo Ball, but obviously, yeah, that's going to be for a later episode. But I definitely think he could be the second option, just based on the fact that he can guard shooting guard, and he has shown that when he will get into the NBA potentially, he's not going to be the greatest at guarding the shooting guard position. But we've obviously seen Lonzo Ball, his brother, who's literally smaller than Lonzo Ball. Smaller than Lamelo Ball, sorry. We've seen Lonzo develop into guarding the shooting guard and even small forward position now on the NBA court. So I think there is a lot for Lamelo to develop there, but it just doesn't make any sense because Lamelo is not an off-ball guard, and it just makes more amount of sense for him to be the main guard running through the system. So I definitely think Lamelo should possibly be the number 2 option, but I definitely would have Anthony Edwards in front of him. Another option is actually Obi Toppin. Now, I'm not going to really go too much into this one because I don't believe Obi Toppin is necessarily a number 1 pick. But I definitely feel like there is a way that if they didn't like Anthony Edwards or Lamelo, they could be, trading down to maybe pick 3 or 4, and then possibly going out and getting Obi Toppin, because they do need a power forward. But in my opinion, Karl-Anthony Towns has been so inconsistent throughout his career. I feel like they need to get a power forward that's very versatile, like just two-way that can play, that can do defense and offense. And I don't think that Obi Toppin is like that. Some people say he's the worst defender in the projected top 10 just because of how inconsistent he really is, and just the fact that he doesn't really put too much of an effort when he goes about his defense. But yeah, that's really why I don't really think they should be drafting him. But if they want to trade down, I definitely would see him to be a potential option. And then the 4th and final player that I'm going to be talking about that I think they could potentially be drafting as well is actually James Wiseman. Now, again, this is a very similar thing where they definitely don't really need James Wiseman at all, because they've already got Karl-Anthony Towns at center, and I'm not too sure really how James Wiseman would go at guarding that power forward position. But a lot of people have kind of put his name forward just based on the fact that a lot of people think he is the best talent available and he is the best player on this draft. And who knows, even though he is extremely tall, maybe they could potentially develop him into guarding that power forward position. But I just really don't think you can expect a 7'1" player, however tall he is, to be guarding that power forward position. Like, there are literally power forwards in the league right now, like Draymond Green, who are 6'5" and are definitely going to be outrunning James Wiseman. And James Wiseman just wouldn't be able to, potentially compete with those smaller type of power forwards, as they would definitely get away from him. And I just don't really think it would make the most amount of sense at all. But of course, if they think he is the best available player and they're not really interested in Anthony Edwards and Lamelo Ball potentially, then I think he could 100% be an option. But as far as this really goes, they gotta draft Anthony Edwards. He just makes so much sense for the team. There is no other player that makes more sense than Anthony Edwards to go with the first overall pick in the 2020 NBA draft. It just makes so much sense. Look, they don't necessarily need a shooting guard, but there aren't exactly any top tier small forward / power forwards up there. And if they needed to fill in a position that was point guard, shooting guard, or center, it would definitely be shooting guard, as I don't necessarily think that the Malik Beasley and D'Angelo Russell duo is going to really work long term when it does come on the defensive end. So I do really think they really do need to go with Anthony Edwards. He has shown that once he gets his defense up to more inconsistent, that he is going to be a very versatile defender, and we have seen that potentially he could even go on to grow into a player that could even guard the small forward position. And as far as we've seen, he can definitely guard the point guard and shooting guard position. So I think this is going to be an extremely interesting decision by the Timberwolves, but I just think there's a real clear answer in this and on this, and I just think that it makes the most amount of sense for Anthony, for them to draft Anthony Edwards. And if they don't come out of the draft with Anthony Edwards, I would be extremely shocked and confused. But yeah, that's just who I think the Minnesota Timberwolves should be drafting in the 2020 NBA draft. I definitely would really like to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on this all down below. So don't forget to comment in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts and opinions on the 2020 draft? Do you guys think the Minnesota Timberwolves should be drafting Anthony Edwards? Do you guys think they should be drafting someone else? But also don't forget to just subscribe to the channel for all the latest NBA content and NBA news and just sports related content in general. But also don't forget to subscribe to my gaming channel and my IRL/long channel. Definitely don't forget to check out my podcast as well if you haven't already. Links for them will all be in the description down below. But as I was saying, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.